Welcome back to stage 2 here at the Players' Championship Finals, and this time we have another young player up against a veteran who was having his best ever season. Gilding, who took out Ricky Evans yesterday in the very first match on this stage, will now take on Keane Barry, who had one of the most impressive displays here on stage 2 in taking out the two-time world champion Adrian Lewis. We'll talk more about those games in due course, but myself, the asset Paul Nicholson and Chris Murphy will talk you through this one, which will see one of these players go through to play Callan Rids, who somewhat patiently took out Riccardo Pietreczko just a few moments ago. Game 2 coming your way. Murph, this should be very good based on what we saw yesterday and what we've seen from Gilding this year.
Yeah, I like the way you described that actually, Paul. Patiently was a very good word to use for Rids' performance, and Keane Barry might need something similar in facing Andrew Gilding. By no means a slow thrower, but it's a whole pre-shot routine that makes the time that Barry has to wait more.
If there's one thing that Keane Barry did show yesterday, it was poise. He got a tremendous start against Adrian Lewis. But when Lewis started to find things on the comeback trail, Keane Barry was at the back of the stage, statuesque, just taking every blow that Jackpot gave him. And ultimately, he was too strong.
Andrew Gilding was very, very strong, wasn't he? One of the best performances. The first match on this stage yesterday, an average of 100.91, a high checkout of 128. And don't forget that 101 average was in a match which also saw him miss 11 darts at double. So that could have been 105 plus.
Andrew strikes me as the kind of guy who is not really bothered whether it's 100 average, 105, 75, as long as he's through. He gives so little away. And that's something that these two players have got in common.
Yeah, he's almost trying to make himself into a darting machine. We see this little wander he does across the hockey before he throws his darts. You can just see him almost walking towards, well, you guys at home there, towards the camera to his left. He sets himself, doesn't he? You mentioned in the first match, Paul, Riccardo Pietreczko was finding a lot of ones, perhaps because he wasn't finding the perfect place on the hockey. Well, Andrew Gilding leaves nothing to chance, does he? It's approach the hockey, 3 steps to the left, and then I'm going to look at the dartboard.
Are you trying to tell me that it'd be really good to put on Strictly because he knows his steps? But you're absolutely right. He is machine-like, very regimented. I can imagine that in the abode of Gilding, everything is laid out. Everything has a process. I wouldn't be surprised if he eats exactly the same thing before every single match. Gilding can't do anything from his position, but Keane's getting that really good start again.
Yeah, and he's getting a really good first dart, which is helping him. That low dart below the treble 20 target is absolutely ideal for him.
60. Can you require 20?
Quite quiet here in Reds Bar for Saturday afternoon. Maybe a few tender skulls out there.
Second leg, Andrew to throw first.
Yeah, in
Game on.
all of the excitement, if you can call it that, last night.
What excitement.
Exactly.
There wasn't any. You're talking about Christian Pulisic hitting the bar.
The least said about the football, the better. We did promise you that the best entertainment would be on the hockey, and it's proved to be the case once again.
100.
What we've got here is a contrast in pace and also a contrast in equipment. There's not many players who use the golden barrel these days, but they definitely suit the hand and the image of Goldfinger. But it's quite a smooth barrel that Andrew uses compared to the tungsten that has been crafted for Keane.
60.
If you look at them close up, it looks like they've been shot with an Uzi. There's that many holes in the barrel element itself.
Very unorthodox, isn't it? You see a lot of sort of ringed grip like that you see at the end of the Gilding barrel, but his darts look spotty.
59.
Yeah, they've got holes. They've got indentations or craters in every barrel. So he does have a bit of ring grip in the middle, I believe. Might actually be a smooth portion. But you can see all the dots there. They are indentations so that he's got this uniform hole pattern all the way around the dart.
$134.
It's decent enough from Gilding, but Barry could put himself in with a break bid here. May look at the bull. That was the intention.
And do we require 129?
This is a tricky one. It might involve a double-double. Not anymore. 60 for the bull. And Keane's going to get a shot for 2-0.
57.
He was hoping to be on a 2-darter by going for the bullseye in 25 section in the previous visit. He needs to use all three. Not sure he was going for double 18.
I agree. I think he was trying to leave 32.
Requires 72.
And ultimately, he tried to stay in rhythm to throw that double 18, but he was reaching for it. Double 12.
Looks like one he can bounce off.
Game shot.
Well, air shot in the end from Andrew Gilding, but he does level up the match with that neat finish.
Game on.
Chance miss there from Keane Barry.
You remember that really famous Australian beer advert, don't you, where they bring up the two guys in the beach hut?
Yep.
You know how they always have an Australian nickname for everybody who rings in? Do you know who what yours would be?
Murpho.
Just Murph. Or Chriso.
37.
Well, here you got Gildo, because that's what I call him. I don't know whether he knows that. And you know what Keane's would be? It wouldn't be Keno.
60.
It'd be Bazza. I just wonder, you know, I spoke about something a little bit earlier in the year. Ranking events, maybe going a little bit further afield. You know, back to Australia, maybe back to Canada or the United States. The reason I bring it up is because I believe these two, who are stalwarts of the tour, they love to travel and go to different places. And they don't like to dodge, well, not dodge events, that's the wrong vernacular. They don't like to skip tournaments, they like to play all the time. If there were ranking events further afield, these guys would definitely attend them. First thumbs up for the day for Gildo.
Yeah, no Australian representation in this tournament anymore. Oh, brilliant from Barry in response. Number 1 seed Hesse beaten his World Cup winning teammate Simon Whitlock, thrashed by Danny Noppert in probably the performance of the day yesterday.
Yeah, agreed. That was incredible from Danny. Looking to do the Minehead double this year. Double 11 for Gildo. Ooh, he's busted the lot. Goldilocks.
Can you require 40?
If you don't know that one, that means wrong bed.
Game
So
shot.
now Keane Barry eats his porridge.
Keane Barry. Full play again.
Double 10 taken out by Barry to get a lead back, and we've seen in each of the last couple of legs one of the players have an opportunity to break and not take it.
I get asked a lot, you know, what do dart players eat before they play a long day like this? And actually, porridge is a perfect dart player's breakfast. Slow releasing carbohydrates over the course of time.
60.
And that's something that Keane Barry looks into. He looks into every single detail. Footwear, equipment, mindset, nutrition. Does a bit of training in the gym as well. Practices a lot. He's a darting product, is young Keane. He's a look at what dart players are now. Never mind the future.
It's going to be a decent battle, this. We can see that already. Nip and tuck start to this 1st to 6 contest.
Keane Barry qualified for the World Championship in 14th position of 32 qualifiers. Do you know where Gilding was?
Got to be very, very close to the top on that Pro Tour order of merit.
Second, just behind Josh Rock. That's a mark of how good Gilding's been this year. He's going to be a nightmare draw for somebody from the international pot.
This leg is a mark of how good he is.
69.
Or it was until the double. And that's been a little bit troubling so far.
You know how small those flights are for Keane Barry?
59.
He can't even fit his nickname on them. It just says Diner.
Require 12.
It is a battle of the small flights, isn't it? These are catchy things that Andrew uses.
Andrew Gilding.
Look like they're made of carbon fibre.
Keane to throw first.
And he changed those a few months ago, didn't he? He was using something very similar, but he went to a new version
100.
about 3 months ago when he made the final of the European Tour event in Belgium, where he lost out to Dave Chisnell.
So just talking about tackle, darting equipment, Paul.
60.
I think there's been a bit of a revolution of late in that particular part of the dart. People are using very different flights now compared to what they were using maybe 5 years ago.
I had a chat with Chris Mason about this maybe last week. We were saying that in the 1950s and 60s, you'd walk into an establishment where there'd be a set of darts next to a board, you'd pick them up and throw them if you didn't have your own. And those darts would have a stem and a flight which were one piece. Fast forward 50, 60 years, and all of a sudden, people are starting to use that equipment again, but it's better engineering. It's not just a piece of plastic put together and everything is curved. With Andrew, he's got a system, I believe, where the stem goes into the barrel, screwed in, and then he pops the flights on the top. But pre-molded, exact right angles, they are here. They are being used by a lot of people now.
81.
Yeah, very interesting. Of course, it means no flights coming out, doesn't it?
But here's the thing. Here's the caveat to that. If you look at the world rankings right now, how many of the top 10 are using molded flights?
16.
Price doesn't. Wright only does occasionally because he uses everything. Van Gerwen doesn't. Michael Smith doesn't. Luke Humphreys doesn't. Wade doesn't.
99.
Cross doesn't.
Andrew,
Aspinall
you
doesn't.
require
Noppert doesn't. And
126.
neither does Johnny Clayton. So none of them do.
Interesting.
Do you want me to go further? Because the only person in the top 12 who does is Dave Chisnell.
86. Keane requires 78.
Maybe style over substance.
30.
Oh, that would have been some substance from Keane Barry.
I'm not sure that came out of his hand right. That
Yeah,
one
it-
flopped a little bit at the end.
Really did point towards the ground, didn't it?
Double 10. Plan C.
35.
He will not be
Keane
pleased
require
with that.
40.
He should be 3-2 up and thinking about the next leg. Great composure there from Keane Barry.
Keane Barry.
He had every right to think, how's your luck?
Game on.
With dart number 2, he just got on with his job and realised there was still a chance he could get 3-2 up, and he did. Just a sign of that maturity which Keane Barry's been exuding for the last 5 years.
But also, Paul, on the other side of this duel, we mentioned it at the start of the match, the fact that despite a very glittering
58.
display from Gilding, he missed 11 darts at double yesterday. Well, he's already missed 8 in this match.
He'd probably not tell you this,
60.
but maybe Andrew just wants to be regarded as a player who is not that guy who should have beaten Michael Van Gerwen at this venue. What was it, 9 years ago?
45.
Yeah, and I think should have is a rather harsh way of putting it, because the performance was absolutely sensational from Gilding in that defeat.
Yeah, it was a career-defining performance, but he is not a one-trick pony. He's a very hard worker.
Russ Bray there, I'm going to come back to that 180 point now, because Andrew Gilding takes his time. He can bellow out the full maximum. If Keane Barry plays Callan Rids in the next round, this could be the case. Would it not be an idea?
99.
Traditionalists are going to go absolutely crazy on social media to lose the 100 part of the 180 call.
140.
So you're saying they should call
62.
80?
No, just 180.
I see where you're going with this.
Where's he going with this?
Double 8.
Game
Well, that
shown
is the
the
best way to
sixth
get 62.
Andrew Gilding. Gilding,
It's the only way to get 62, and you know why. Because that's the exact shot I hit to win this tournament.
16.
For 62, it was treble 15, 188.
I'm just going to get out my bingo card. Check.
I'm only going to mention it once. It's amazing how many times people, when they've got 62, actually get the 45 and then go on to take the extra 17. I don't know what there is about that shot, but it happens a lot more than you think.
Can you fill it up?
180.
I'm going to have you ask Russ about that, by the way. I don't think he'll be on board.
Perhaps not established referees, but you look, there's new blood coming through in that department, and they're looking for different ways to call the scores. And in the modern game, the pace of play is picking up. Maybe it's an idea, I don't know.
I see what you're saying, and I'm on board with it. I think any sort of individuality with 180 calls is all right by me. Because we have different ways of calling the end double. Marco Maya, Freddie Williams like to say yes before they say yes, game shot.
Tell you what, since we mentioned it, we're getting the full
100.
iconic call from the voice that is Russ Bray, aren't we?
The old repertoire, of which he's got plenty. Double 13.
Game shot in the 7th leg.
Beautifully done. Keane Barry looks like a player who is ready to go to the mattresses, as they say in The Godfather.
Well, this would be a very impressive win.
100.
And I've been more impressed by Keane so far in this tournament than I have been by Callan. So maybe an opportunity this evening for Barry to make it through to the final day at Minehead once again. Perfect for the pair of them, isn't it? Whoever comes through this match and Callan Rids to know now who they're playing tonight, and even if it's the first match of the evening, they've got so much time to prepare for it.
Absolutely right. In direct contradiction to what it's like at the UK Open, where you'll have to wait till the end of the session, A, to find out who you're playing, and B, when. In this tournament, it's just when.
Mind you, you had your moments in that one as well, didn't you? Draw at Gary Anderson in the afternoon, Phil Taylor in the evening, and beat them both.
Yeah, that was a pretty good day. But the amount of times I would turn up to Minehead and draw Michael van Gerwen or Phil Taylor, it was borderline boring.
Well, Barry leaves the 170. Will Gilding force him to attempt to take it out?
I think it's fair to say as well that Gilding was a favourite for this game.
96.
Not just based on what he did yesterday, but based on form for the whole season. And Keane is looking very ready to get through this one. I think someone in the crowd just called him Andy. I don't know anybody who calls him Andy.
99.
Well, he would have liked that to have been Andy Ur. This would be handy. Double six.
70.
Oh, you maybe heard Keane muttered by Barry there. He's left himself
89.
in the madhouse.
Double 16. Harvett. That's taken by Gildo. And in the words of the PDC's Twitter feed this morning, don't blame the darts, Keane. If you haven't seen that tweet, by the way, Roy Keane yesterday somewhat mentioned the fact that the England players were playing darts in their preparation for the USA game. And the PDC have quote tweeted that piece of ITV footage saying, don't blame the darts, Roy, which is brilliant. By the way, anybody from Keane's area, because he's from the same area of Ireland as Roy Keane, the way they say darts, it's one of the best ways you can say it on planet Earth. The darts.
Yeah, he's a Cork boy, isn't he? Dynamite. Don't know if Miss Dynamite is here with him this weekend.
I'm sure Barbara's here.
Dart playing partner, Barbara Hospodarska. Should be a nickname, shouldn't it?
Miss Dynamite, absolutely. If you're listening, Barbara, make it happen.
Tee-hee.
57.
It's a good game, enjoying it for everything that it's worth. We're none the wiser as to who's going to come through it. Keane had his chance to go 5-3 up. Is he going to rue that? He might need what Chris Dovey was able to find on this stage yesterday, a 167. And it's on.
139.
Well, it's a good setup, but Gilding now gets an opportunity to break Barry in the 9th leg of the match. And it's a golden start. It's a golden finish from Andrew Gilding, who takes out the 120 to break Barry and is now throwing for a place in round 3.
Did we just see some emotion on the face of Andrew Gilding there? One of relief, of jubilation, and a little bit of channeling there from Andrew as well, just puffing the cheeks out and just getting rid of a bit of extra tension as he takes the lead. Keane didn't do much wrong in that leg, but now he has to win 2 straight to go through.
Well, let me ask you a question, Paul, here. Has the ambition in this tournament for many of the players involved today changed as a result of the carnage for many of the highest ranked players that departed yesterday?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just a mark of how open World Darts is at the minute. Obviously, Michael Smith won the Grand Slam. We've seen Ross Smith win the Europeans. We've seen Van Gerwen win a plethora of big titles this year. We saw Danny Noppert win here back in March. I just think these players woke up this morning thinking it's just another opportunity to write my own little slice of history. They don't really care who's in the way. We've seen yesterday that the likes of Heta and Aspinall and Smith and Price, they're all gone. But it is a mark of how strong the field is.
The mark of how strong Keane Barry is bouncing back here with his back to the wall. The 3rd maximum from him of the 5 in this match.
44.
And he's going to have 6 starts from the 1-2-1 as a result of that, combined with the Gilding slip.
Doesn't have to go for the 11 now. That's perfect.
Game shot on the 10th leg.
Absolutely ideal from Keane Barry. The only thing he could have done wrong with that final visit was if he under-delivered the double 8 and bust the score. That was a great, great leg to give himself a chance of serving it out.
Gilding had grabbed a grip on the game with the 120 finish, and Keane Barry literally went one better.
Clash of styles, ages,
44.
not talent levels. They can't be separated.
One leg will decide the destiny of the darting duel. And Barry is the man who's got a spring in his step at the moment.
Got to say, 2 of my favourite players that I've watched this year playing this match. Love to have seen the progression of Gilding, even though he hasn't won a tournament this year. But when we watched Keane at the UK Open, that was a joy.
Sublime. Absolutely brilliant from Barry. It's 4 fantastic 180s.
If he closes this out with another 12 darter, we might have to re-nickname him the Closer.
58. Keane to require 130.
Well, they certainly have been dynamite darts. A couple of explosive legs. Is he going for it?
98.
No nonsense. Couldn't be tempted.
Doing everything right, laying up for the double that he wants, and Gilding can do nothing. That's 196, and he needed a treble to get to a finish. And Keane's got time and darts on his side.
Game shot.
And Barry
Keane Barry.
produces a surge at the end of the match to get the better of Andrew Gilding. It was brilliant from Barry in the end. Produced the 1-2-1 checkout after he fell behind for the first time in the contest and reeled off a couple of fantastic legs to book his place in the last 16. A dozen darter followed by a 13, an average of 100.7 from the young Irishman, who goes through to take on Callan Ridds in what will be a fast and furious contest this evening.